Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We're delighted to have you here with us in this community of open hearts and open minds, where diverse beliefs and experiences come together to grow in love and in service. Whomever you are, whoever you love, whatever path you're on, you belong here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, pop in once or twice a year, or are here for the very first time, thank you for joining us. I'm Jessica Meller, the worship associate today. Our service is led by our minister, Reverend Sharon Wylie. Our worship musician this morning is John Schultz, and our song leader is Maria Pia Duffy Fultz, sorry. Our tech team is Jake Diock and Hope Campbell, and our greeters this morning are Ann McKiernan and Shannon Anderson. We're delighted to welcome those here in the chapel and those tuning in on Zoom. You are part of this gathering wherever you are. For those in the chapel, please feel free to wear a mask or step outside if it helps you feel more comfortable. We have speakers set up so you can still listen to the service from the courtyard. It's always a joy to see new faces in service. Newcomers, we'd love for you to get connected. Our email newsletter is the best way to learn all about the exciting groups and activities here at Chalice. And boy, do we love our activities. Online newcomers will receive an invitation to join our list after the service. And for those here in person, please consider sharing your email before you leave. Now, let's take a breath together. As we settle our souls into worship, we acknowledge Indigenous peoples with these words from Nicholas Black Elk, Wichasha Wakan of the Oglala Lakota. The first piece, P-E-A-C-E, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that this center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Ronan Felly to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words come from Rabindranath Tagore, a Bengali musician, writer, and educator, and winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy.
Hello, I just wanted to say a couple words about the song we're going to do as the prelude this morning. It is a song I've been meaning to do for quite a while here. It's a beautiful melody by a composer I really like, Jamie Cullum. But then I got talking to Jake, and it turns out Jake is a musician and a vocalist, not just our tech driver back there. And like we both appreciate the composer of this song. And this song really kind of fits the service today about caregiving. This is about a person who's kind of lost touch with people and is insular and really needs to get back in relations with people, but is having a very hard time. But it's a beautiful song, and we're going to share it with you.
Realign all the stars above my head. The warning signs travel far. I drink instead on my own. Oh, how I've known the battle scars and worn out beds. Gentle now, a tender breeze blows and whispers through a Gran Torino, whistling another tired song. Engines hum and bitter dreams grow, a heart locked in a Gran Torino beats a lonely rhythm all night long. These streets are all they shine with the things I've known, and breaks through the trees, they're sparkling. Your world is nothing more than all the tiny things you'd left behind. So tenderly, the story is nothing more than what you seek. What you've done will become. Standing strong, do you belong in your skin? Just wondering. Gentle now, a tender breeze blows, whispers through a Gran Torino, whistling another tired song. Engines hum, bitter dreams grow, a a heart locked in a Gran Torino beats a lonely rhythm all night long. May I be so bold and still need someone to hold that shudders my skin. They're sparkling. Your world is nothing more than all the tiny things you'd left behind. So realign all the stars above my head. The warning signs travel far. I drink instead on my own. Oh, how I've known the battle scars and worn out beds. Gentle now, a tender breeze blows and whispers through a Gran Torino, whistling another tired song. Engines hum and bitter dreams grow. A heart locked in a Gran Torino beats a lonely rhythm all night long. Beats a lonely rhythm all night long. Beats a lonely rhythm all night long.
That was lovely. Thank you. The inspiration for today's service comes from Wendy Metzger, who was the winning bidder of this item in our last year's church auction. The words of our call to worship. What a blessing to begin this day together. The gathering of community, our presence in this time made sacred by our shared worship. Sunday morning after Sunday morning, a balm to weary souls, a touchstone for lives of joy and sorrow, beauty and despair. Come, let us worship together.
Our hymn of the month for November is number 315 in the gray hymnal, This Old World. We are singing this hymn every Sunday this month to help us get to know the hymn and feel more comfortable singing it. Please rise in body or spirit and to join in singing. This old world is full of sorrow, full of sickness, weak and sore. If you love your neighbor truly, love will come to you once more. We're all children of one family, we're all brothers, sisters too. If you cherish one
meet them face to face. It is said, now love thy neighbor, and we know well that is true. This the sum of human labor, true for me as well as you. Please be seated.
Our Sunday worship is a special time when we come together as a community to share in the spiritual practice of honoring each other's joys and sorrows. In this space, we support and uplift one another, recognizing that each joy is a blessing and each sorrow is a shared burden. For those here in the chapel, you are warmly invited to write your joys or sorrows on a candle card, which we will collect shortly. If you're joining us online, please feel free to share your joy or sorrow along with your name in the chat box. These personal sharings will be read out loud, but this part of the service will not be included in the recording that goes on our YouTube channel, so your sharing will remain private within our gathered community. If you prefer to share a private message for Reverend Sharon, you're welcome to send her a confidential email with your joy, sorrow, or prayer request. Her email address will appear on the screen shortly. As we take this moment to write and reflect, please enjoy some music, knowing that in the sharing, your burden is lessened and your joy is multiplied.
light a final pillar candle for all the joys and sorrows and anxieties in our community that may go unshared and unspoken this morning. These too are held in the love and support of our community. And now I'd like to invite the children and anyone else who would like to come forward for our story. Our story is called Stillwater and Koo Save the World, written and illustrated by John J. Muth. Koo stretched fuzzy toes and paws and yawned. "Good morning," said Stillwater. "Good morning, Uncle. Warm and sweet smells woke me up. Is it breakfast time?" asked Koo. "Yes," said Stillwater. "What would you like to do?" "Something important. Fix all the things that are wrong. Let us save the world," said Koo, taking a bite of waffle. "That's a very big idea," said Stillwater. "Breakfast was so good. Waffles are my favorite. Let us get to work," said Koo. "Okay," said Stillwater. "Maybe we can begin by tidying your room." "When I put my things where they go, I feel happy. Not so jumbled up," said Koo. Jasper came to help. He likes to sleep in the sun. "He might be hungry," said Koo. Stillwater said, "Let's feed him and maybe change his litter box. Jasper might like to be brushed, too. When we are finished, we can visit the fish pond." "I wonder, do fish swim knowing how very big the vast ocean is?" asked Koo. "That's a wonderful question," Stillwater said. "Let's think about it. Meanwhile, we can clear the leaves and feed the fish. Let us be certain no one goes to sleep hungry in the whole wide world," said Koo. "Shall we make a welcome gift for our new neighbors?" asked Stillwater. "Thank you for the cake," said the Sunams. "We feel so welcome in our new neighborhood," Mrs. Sunam said. Stillwater and Koo wished them a good day and hoped they would see them again soon. "The Sunam family loved your cake," said Stillwater. "Making a good cake that you want to be just right is not so easy," said Koo. On their bike ride, Koo said to Stillwater, "I woke from a dream. I'm worried about the world. How can we fix it?" "These are big feelings. Let's stop here for a moment," said Stillwater. "The world is so big, but in my dream, it wasn't. It was delicate," Koo said. "The world is delicate. It is our home, and it takes care of us. We must always, every day, make our best effort to take care of the world and each other," said Stillwater. "Uncle, there's a truck. A mama and baby ducks. Look, up on the road." Koo pointed. Koo was right. Stillwater saw a mother duck and her ducklings about to cross the road. A truck was coming, and the duck family was in danger. Stillwater ran toward the road. Koo was right behind. "Stop!" With arms wide like a crossing guard, Koo escorted the baby ducklings to the other side of the road. believe fish know how big the ocean is. They just do their best, said Coo. Yes, said Stillwater. Is saving the world even possible at all? I am still not sure, said Coo. Stillwater smiled. My big-hearted Coo, you did so many things today that made the world a better place. Each time you do something good, you save the world a little bit, said Stillwater. And you will do a little bit more tomorrow.
As our children leave for their classrooms, we sing, walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere we go there is love all around. Walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere we go there is love all around.
Feminism is the radical notion that women are people. This famous phrase was coined in 1986 by Marie Scheer, an American writer and feminist activist. First wave feminism focused on securing women, white women anyway, the right to vote in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Second wave feminism ran from the early 1960s to the early 1980s, focused on a wider range of issues: sexuality, family, domesticity, the workplace, reproductive rights, and inequalities, both legal inequalities and de facto inequalities. This was the era of Betty Friedan's famous book, The Feminine Mystique, published in 1963. Which articulated the dissatisfaction white middle-class housewives felt in the role of mother and wife. This was also the era of journalist Gloria Steinem's rise to prominence. The Roe v. Wade decision legalized abortion in 1973. This was also an era of civil rights, activism, Black power, the Chicano movement, and LGBTQ liberation. There are third and fourth waves of feminism, which are less clearly defined and harder to articulate. I learned I am firmly grounded in the third wave of feminism that began in the early 1990s with the publication of philosopher Judith Butler's book, Gender Trouble, which I read in college. It's a hard book, folks, which I was made to read in college, wrestled with in college. And that third wave of feminism also began with the public testimony of Anita Hill regarding being sexually harassed by Judge Clarence Thomas, who was subsequently appointed to the Supreme Court, where he still serves and is still the source of ethical controversy. These more recent waves of feminism include currents and theories including intersectionality, sex positivity, postmodern feminism, feminist punk, and most recently, a renewed focus on sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual violence, the objectification of women, and sexism in the workplace. Why am I talking about this? In July of this year, it made the news that vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance had said at a speech in 2021 that Vice President Kamala Harris is one of the childless cat ladies who is miserable with her life and has no direct stake in America because she is not a mom. He said this about the Vice President of the United States of America. He also included Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Cory Booker in his tirade against the childless left, who have no physical commitment to the future of this country. He said, why is this just a normal fact of life for the leaders of our country to be people who don't have a personal and direct stake in it via their own offspring? I'm lifting this up to illuminate that the pressure women face to be mothers is not some relic from the past, something we resolved back in the second wave of feminism, but something that still exists today. As antiquated as it seems, some people believe that not having children is aberrant behavior. So just as an aside, let me share that George Washington did not have children of his own. Like Kamala Harris, he did have stepchildren. So all of this is the background I bring to the book I was asked to reflect on by last year's auction winner of a sermon topic. By author Elissa Strauss, the book is titled, When You Care, The Unexpected Magic of Caring for Others. So the story of what brings the author to write the book is really central to the book itself. She was a successful journalist and essayist and a feminist. And having her first child really sent her into a swirl of philosophical confusion about what it means to be a mother and a feminist at the same time. So these are some of the messages she had internalized about being a parent prior to becoming a parent. Caregiving gets in a woman's way. A woman must find a way out of the home, away from kids and older parents and anyone else who depends on her. Only then will she have a chance to find deep fulfillment and enlightenment. She enters motherhood believing that parenting oscillates mostly between tedium and nightmare. So, these are just the first few pages of the book, but I think they're really critical to understanding the topic and the wrestling that I don't think is particular to her, like the wrestling that feminism invited, second wave feminism invited in thinking of the home and work life as separate things. So this is a chunk of an excerpt describing, she has this newborn baby and she goes to a restaurant in her neighborhood just to get out of the house sometimes, just to be in a different space. So she's gone to this restaurant a few times. Sometimes the waitress holds the baby for her, like she's really lonely. And so then this happens one day. So she's been there several times. She's had experience at this restaurant. This time, however, when I arrived at the restaurant for my lunch, there were voices, lots of voices, all amplified by that industrial decor. A dozen women were sitting around a long table, speaking over one another while tending to their babies. It was the neighborhood new moms group, likely the one I could have joined, talking loudly about breastfeeding and diaper changes in between forkfuls of spaghetti. The waitress was too busy to carry Augie, that day, her baby, leaving me to balance eating my pasta and tending to the newborn all by myself without anyone to commiserate with. I did not want to join the group. I was absolutely certain of it. The taboos against bottle feeding and pushing your baby in a stroller were strong at the time, and I did both. I wasn't opposed to breastfeeding or baby wearing, but my boobs didn't make enough milk and my giant baby strained my back and neck when strapped to my torso. Joining such a group would be an invitation for disapproval or judgment, I suspected, and I had no evidence to the contrary. As I listened to them speak, I became ever more certain of my position, and a not misogynistic hostility consumed me. There were other things, so many other things to talk about, I thought, while they compared diapers, strollers, feeding struggles, and sleep schedules. They put on supportive faces for one another in the moment, but I knew that the majority of them interpreted news of a better diaper, bottle, bath, swaddle, whatever, as a personal attack or an occasion to spiral into self-doubt. A report of a better eater or sleeper was an act of war. Right there in front of me, women were losing themselves to motherhood. They had come in search of support and understanding, but would leave with worries. Over time, these worries would metastasize motherhood into an outsized purpose, an outsized identity, stifling everything else. Or maybe these were the deranged musings of the woman on the other side of the restaurant, sitting alone with a baby, watching a new moms group interact as if she'd been hired to write an expose on it, skeptical that caring for a baby could make for interesting conversations. It was all a little lonely if she'd just admit it. So this wrestling is really like a core struggle for her that prompts her. And so she subsequently, you can hear her turmoil, but this is as her baby's a newborn. And so she's surprised to find out over time that parenting is much richer and more meaningful than these fears she has about it, about losing herself in motherhood. The joy and wonder of it, she found, was transformative. And this is the unexpected magic she names in the subtitle of this book, the unexpected magic of caring for others. So I want to say that I think the title is a little bit misleading because this is really a book about the unexpected magic of parenting. The author wants to paint a broader picture and include many types of caregiving. And I think she makes some successful arguments about that and some that don't quite land. But her personal experience and the stories she tells focus on parenting. And I would go farther and say that her passion for the topic comes from her experience as a parent. And I think the argument she wants to make is strongest when she focuses on parenting. So I would definitely recommend this book to parents who are finding parenting unexpectedly joyful, rich, and meaningful, and would like to sort of go deeper with that feeling. I'm not entirely sure I'd recommend it for people caring for their aging parents or for people caring for their spouses in illness and decline. Like, I think there are there's some meaningful information, but it's in there with a lot of other information that is for parents. So I'm going to come down and talk a little more about the book. So her foremost project in the book is to offer a different narrative of parenting than the one that she had in her head when she came to parenting. And it's not exaggerated what she says. Like, just in the last couple of days, the New York Times or the Washington Post had an opinion piece that was like, the headline was, "Caregiving is brutal." Some things to know, right? The narrative that caregiving depletes us and drains us is a prevalent one. And I think, this book came out in April of this year, and, I can't help but read it, though, against this backdrop of still feeling like there's so much pressure and judgment about being a parent. So that's just sort of an overlay to the book that isn't in there, that isn't part of her analysis. And like I said, she is writing about a bigger picture as well. She talks about caregiving in our culture, and especially as folks age, and it's more and more common for people to have caregivers that they hire into their homes, and it's not an accident that those jobs are devalued and underpaid. She writes about how a lot of the stresses that people feel that caregiving is brutal comes from not having enough time and money for the caregiving that is required. Caregivers need rest, caregivers need a break. And so she's really wanting to lift up the importance of caregiving. And yeah, that's the project of her book, is to offer a different vision of caregiving, that entering into the caregiving process can be beautiful and transformative. As I've titled this service, the real wrestling with, like, yes, it can be beautiful and joyful and wonderful, and it is also hard and demanding and draining, and wanting to hold both of those things together at the same time and not overlean in one direction. So for me, I think the idea of a spiritual journey is possibly helpful, because I think we expect spiritual journeys to be challenging and demanding and not always easy, but that there's a richness and a benefit to it that makes the journey worthwhile. But I think one of the places where her message falls just a little bit short for me because of the world I see is, and she tries to be cautious of this, but it's hard when you're creating a narrative to not go too far in one direction or the other. And, I fear that this can place another burden that, like, it's supposed to be a spiritual transformation. And if you're not experiencing it, maybe you're doing it wrong. That, like, we don't need, right? There's enough pressure. It's very, very taboo in our culture to not want children, and it's extremely taboo to regret having children. There's a Facebook page called I Regret Having Children, where people anonymously post their experiences because there's no way to share that publicly or openly. And so those folks don't need this book, right? This is placing like another kind of heavy demand on people to have an experience that they may not have. And so someone who's a care provider, a spiritual care provider myself, I want to hold that just a little bit wider, that like not everybody may have this experience, and that's okay too. But I think the really transformative vision she has that's exciting is to think of caregiving as an expected part of our lives. Like if her criticism of feminism, or maybe just our culture in general, that like over here is the home and it's private and intimate and the things we do there are separate from this part of the world, which is public, and this is where ambition and accomplishment happens. She calls those distinctions, what separates them, as glass doors, right? We've heard the metaphor of the glass ceiling. She talks about glass doors, of why do these things have to be separate at all? And can't caregiving be something that we accomplish, like an area to find fulfilling? And what if, instead of thinking as caregiving as something heavy that some people may have to take on in their lives, instead to really move away from our American ideal of independence into an expectation that we will all provide care at some point in our lives, whether to a neighbor, a child, parents, a spouse, that it is part of the expectation of living to be a care provider at times, and to have the support for that, to be able to afford to do that, to have multiple people on, doing caregiving of a person so that there's time for rest and breaks, that, you think about your resume and how women especially have struggled with these gaps, like that you take a pause for parenting and those kind of things, that instead of that being something you have to explain or account for, that it would just be expected, and that we'd recognize that that time is as rich and meaningful and requires as many skills or more as being in the workplace. So to me, that's really the most enlivening part of what she's thinking about. And she talks early on about how we have, the framework of the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell that many movies and stories follow, which is that the protagonist has to leave home and go out into the world and have an adventure, have their ideas challenged, they grow personally, and then they come home transformed. And she invites us to think about narratives where you don't have to leave home to be transformed. That home and the caregiving, the mutual caregiving that occurs there, it can be its own source of change and transformation. And she points to the Disney movie Encanto as a story that tells that story of not having to leave home, but having home be the place of transformation. So to me, that was very exciting. And I think one of the things that I will remember coming away from it. She talks about the sort of the feminist vision of someone like Sheryl Sandberg, who famously wrote the book in the last few years. I think, was it Lean In was the name of it. And that narrative of sort of the successful woman in the workplace has an assumption that there is someone else providing care of children at home, right? Like a hired person. And that vision then, without a larger liberation and transformation, assumes that there is always someone being exploited for their caregiving labor in order for this public success to occur. And what Elissa Strauss wants to do is to just sort of take all that apart and picture something else. What if the caregiver at home is also someone who is paid fairly for their time, who is appreciated for what they do, and whose survival and thriving is integral to our understanding of a healthy, thriving culture? So yeah, I wanted to lift that up today. Her last chapter, like her conclusions, really focuses on interdependence, which is one of the words we've just identified as, and that was in our values, our principles expression before that. And yeah, so this vision of a world where we understand we're all gonna have times of offering care and we're all gonna have times of needing care. And that's not something shameful, or something to be embarrassed about. Instead, yeah, that's part of life, that's to be expected, and that we all take our turns, and some people need more care, some will need less. But that interdependent vision, I think, is what we can really take away as Unitarian Universalists. And so, yeah, I hope thinking about this, I want to lift up one thing that's a little more scientific, but she has a section of the book where she really talks about research that shows that scientific research, studies that show that caregiving is rewarding, and that people who are doing caregiving feel a sense of connectedness that's very rich and meaningful, and that there's like a liveliness to folks who are caregiving, that there's like a health benefit that we don't always think about, maybe we never think about when we hear these narratives or ourselves feel depleted and run down. So I think it is uplifting to know that there's analysis that shows that caregiving has positive impacts on our lives. And so let's let that counter the feelings that we get about it being so overwhelming and depleting. And I hope when you hear those narratives going forward that you'll stop and think, is it the caregiving that's depleting, or is it not having time for rest and not having enough money to support a life where a lot of time needs to be devoted to caregiving someone else? Because she argues that it's more about the time and the money than the impact of caregiving itself. So yeah, I hope you, like me, appreciate the invitation to think more deeply on this. We live in a world where who is providing caregiving and how is sort of central to how our world is being reshaped. And it's worth our time to think about who we provide care to, who we may need care from, and how our broader culture can support more mutual and interdependent caregiving in our lives. May it be so.
Please rise and body your spirit to sing our next hymn, There Is a Love.
I Please be seated.
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzburg writes, generosity is characterized by the inner quality of letting go or relinquishing, being able to let go, to give up, to renounce, to give generously. These capacities spring from the same source within us. When we practice generosity, we open to all of these liberating qualities simultaneously. We encourage you to text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to enter your credit card information. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your pledge payment, please be sure to include pledge after the dollar amount. The phone number for text donations will be on screen in a moment. If you prefer to make an in-person donation of cash or check, there are envelopes in a donation box to the left of the chapel double doors. You can leave those donations after the service. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. At Chalice UU congregation, love is at the center of everything we do.
Yeah, hello, 1, 2, 3. Hello, thank you. Laura and I are going to share a song for you today.
be at your side.
If life's standing still and your soul's confused, you can't find the road. Which road to choose? You can make mistakes. I won't let you
down.
I still believe I will turn around, 'cause you know that I'll be at your side. There's no need to worry. Together we'll survive through the haste and hurry. I'll be at your side when you feel like you're alone and there's nowhere to turn. I'll be at your side.
I'll be at your side.
I'll be at your side. There's no need to worry. Together we'll survive through the haste and hurry. I'll be at your side. Got somewhere to go. 'Cause I'm at your side. Yeah, I'm at your
side. Yeah, I'm at your side.
Yeah, I'm at your side.
These words come from the Reverend Lucas Hergert and his benediction for democracy. We are democracy, unruly, unfinished, unrelenting. People of rebellious joy taking to the streets, underground resilience, resisting complacence, the pleasure of activism organizing into simple hope. We are democracy, people of principles taking on principalities, witnessing the worth of those called unworthy, justice just now, gaining ground, integrity of interdependent existence extending, living democracy in heads, hands, hearts. We know that democracy can die, ossify, brittle byproducts of bygone idealists, plotting politicians, pirating votes, corporations cannibalizing our care for the world. Look, it can wither, distend, come to an end. Democracy, today we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line. Amen.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, found in the Teal hymnal.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we
Our closing words come from Rachel Naomi Remen in her book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, Stories That Heal. The most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention. A loving silence often has far more power to heal and to connect than the most well-intentioned words. Love and blessings to each of you. Blessed be. You're invited to close our time together by singing the well. After our closing hymn, please return to your seats for an announcement.
We drink from the well together. Cold water that quenches my thirst, a thirst for justice, a thirst for joy, a thirst for a love that won't run on. We drink from the well. We drink from the well together. Hand in hand we are standing as one, standing for justice, standing for joy, stand for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. Open the doors to the world outside, spirits renewed from within. Look through the dream in each other's eyes, a part where the new world begins. Yes, we drink from the well together. Heart to heart we are dancing as one, dancing for justice, dancing for joy, dance for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well, spirits renewed. We drink from the well, stand hand in hand. We drink from the well, dancing for joy. I feel my heart swell. We drink from the well.
Hi. Last year, we did such an amazing and wonderful job with our sponsor of family during the holiday season that we're going to do it again. So we are joining with Interfaith Community Services. And because families come in all shapes and sizes, this year we've decided to sponsor 3 adult individuals. Sometimes adult individuals are a little less likely to get chosen for sponsorship. So I think that this is a challenge that we can take on and do as well as we did last year. There will be a collection box every Sunday on the patio for you to place new unwrapped gifts. Our last collection day will be just the first Sunday in December, December 1st. Our unique families have provided us with brief biographies and a list of their needs and interests. We have created a sign-up genius to help guide your choices and minimize duplication. Please label your gifts with the family number and the name of the recipient. Steve Schlesinger, myself, and Judy Cavallo will collect your donations and deliver them to Interfaith during Collection Week, which is December 2nd to the 6th. You'll be hearing much more about this, so you didn't have to absorb all of that right now. You'll be getting emails and single subject emails and all that. But I look forward to your participation, and it's a really great thing for us to be able to show how we care for the rest of our community.
Our social hour will begin in a few minutes online at the same Zoom link and in person on our courtyard. Those of you here in person might want to bring your refreshments into the green room and have a visit with our online congregants. Reverend Sharon and I look forward to greeting you at the chapel doors to hear how the service was meaningful for you. Peace be with you.